Okay, so far what we've done is we did domain and range, and we talked about functions. A. Domain and range, functions, and then yesterday we talked about implicit, explicit, and we did some function. So today what we're going to start with, I'm going to start with the factoring sheet. Okay, so before I begin, first of all, some of you have learned to factor in several different ways. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. And so if you learn to factor another way, we all end up at the same answer. But this is the way I'm going to do it. So however you learned it is okay, but the way I'm writing it is how I'm going to write it in here. Okay? So if I start on number 1, factor out a common factor. That's not a factor. That means what do they have in common? So what do all of these have in common? 10. So if I divide by 10, and since we divided from all 3 terms, that goes in the front. When it says on number 3 to factor completely, that's where we're actually going to do the t-chart. And so in standard form, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. So we take a times c and b. And if I take a times c, the a in this case is 1. That gives you negative 28, because I take 1 times negative 28, and the b is 3. So I want numbers, they're going to multiply to negative 28, but add to 3. 7 times what? Negative 4. Very good. So when I write that, I get p plus 7 and p minus 4. And these are the factors. They would be solutions if it said equal to 0, and then we would solve. But they're not set equal to 0, so we're just looking for factors. So the same thing on number 5. A times C. And my Promethean board's not working. It stopped working. It worked all morning, so now we're doing this. Come on in. Oh, who's the lucky one that got a schedule change? Who? Daniel. This is like gold. Nobody gets schedule changes. Thank you. There you go. So, here, a times c this time is 15, and the b is negative 8. So I want factors of 15 that multiply and add to negative 8. Very good. They're both negative because the negative times the negative gives you a positive. So we get x minus 3 times x minus 5. And again, they're not set equal to 0. So I just want the factors, not solutions. So starting at number 7. So those are some bigger numbers. That's okay. So what should we start with, do you think? So what would you try? I would try 6 and see if we can get rid of the 6. And once we factor, then we just look inside the parentheses. So the a times c is 56, and the b is negative 15. What do you think? Negative 8, negative 7. Thank you very much. So everybody go to 8. Can I factor something out? No. So A times C and B. Go. Find the factors. You do not need a calculator. You can use your phone if you want to multiply some numbers together, but we're not using calculators. Because I said. You're going to another class. I don't know what class. What other classes are there 5th period? It doesn't matter. Anywhere that has an opening. He's got to go. It's true. He was mine last year. He's correct. He is qualified for the class. I know, right? So, what is the A times C? 7 times 24. They're all positive. So, 6 and 28. So, watch. What's the leading coefficient this time? It's not a 1, correct? So this time, we have 7b plus 6 and 7b plus 28. Yes. There we go. So, inside the first parenthesis, can I reduce anything? How about the second? What can I reduce by in the second? 7. So we get 7b plus 6 and b plus 4, and we're factored. So, I always get the question, when we divide by the 7, why doesn't it go to the front? So, look, the 6 here went to the front, but I divided everything by 6. Here, I didn't divide everything by 7, I only divided this factor. And that's like it's like reducing 2/4 to 1/2. The 2 just goes away, right? Because we just reduced it. And that's all I did here. It's like a fraction I've reduced. Okay? So, pick up your other green sheet, because you need that for today. What? No. I'll tell you when you have homework, my friend. Unless you want to finish it. Okay, intercepts are points where, hey, we are not in kindergarten. Switching a piece of paper does not call for conversation. Okay, intercepts are points where a graph intersects the x and the y axis. So, if this is our x-axis, okay, this is the second time I've stopped and looked at you, and I have no more empty desks. So you know where that means you're going to sit? You're going to sit right here in front so I can kick you while I teach. You. Just because there's 36 kids in here doesn't mean I won't do it. I will. Okay, so where this graph touches the x-axis, these are the x-intercepts. Where the graph touches the y-axis, that is the y-intercept. It's on your paper, look. Thank you. I was off, sorry. So the x-intercept occurs when y is 0. The y-intercept occurs when the x is 0. We can have more than one x-intercept, but at most we can have one y-intercept. You can have 0 y-intercepts or 1, but that's the most you can have. So if I take a look at number 1, where is the x-intercept here, friends? Is it 3? I was going to say, it looked like 4 to me. 4 is 0. And the y-intercept? 0, 2. How many times does this, on number 2, how many times does that graph touch the x-axis? All right, anybody who said once or twice, if you can't count to 4, you're out. It's 4. That graph touches 4, Cabello. 4. List them out. And the y-intercept. All 4 of them on your paper. So where it touches. Here, 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 and here. Those are the x. Here's the y, and that goes there. Do you have all 4 of them? Yeah, go put yours up there so they can see them. Does anybody have anything different? Okay. Perfect. Huh? So why are we disagreeing here? Let's look. Let me see. It's hard to count, y'all. These are really hard. I got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6. You're all wrong. And he got 6, so we're counting 6. Good job. Okay, so those are harder to count. They are. I will admit that. Okay. On the next one, number 3. What's the x-intercepts? I got 2, 0 also. Correct. And the y-intercept, I got 0, negative 2. Okay, looking at number 4. Do we touch the x-axis? So there is none. Right? We don't have an x-intercept there. How about number 6? None. Go on to number 6. Where do you touch the x-axis? Where do you touch the y-axis? So none on both. What kind of function is this? It's the parent function of something. Number 6. What? Yeah, the one I was talking about. 2 asymptotes. I want to know what the parent function is of number 6. It is rational. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. The points at which the function intersects the x-axis. So to find the zeros, set f of x equal to 0 and solve for x, which is our factoring. And to find the y-intercept, we'll do f of 0. And this is what we did yesterday, where we just plugged the 0 in for x. So we're going to find the x and the y-intercepts today. Okay, I'm going to start on number 8. So we want to find the zeros. So that's where you set it equal to 0. And I want to find the y-intercept, which is where you plug 0 in for x. So I'm going to start with the y-intercept just because it's easier. So if I do f is 0, so the first one is 0 minus 0 minus 4. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 4. To find the zeros, I have to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to do 0 equals 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. Is there any greatest common factor here? So a times c gives me negative 8, and b is negative 7. So what factors do you think I'm going to use? 1 and negative 8, yes. So when I write this, I have a leading coefficient of 2. Can I reduce the first? So I get x minus 4. So I have to set each of these equal to 0. So the first 0 is going to be 4. And if I subtract 1 and divide by 2, I get a negative 1/2. So I'm going to go on and do number 10. I want to find the y-intercepts and the x-intercepts. So, first of all, to find the y-intercepts, I just plug 0 in for x. So it's 0, 0, 0. So what do I get? 0. So I get a y-intercept of 0, 0. And then I want to set this equal to 0 to solve for my x's. Who's yawning? We're having fun. Stop. Okay, can I factor it if I have an x to the third? I have to factor out an x to start, right? So when I do that, so my a times c is negative 7 and negative 6. And that's going to give me negative 7 and 1. So I have to set each of these equal to 0. So I get x equals 0. So my zeros end up being 0, 7, and negative 1. So if I have x squared, I do x times x, and that gives me x squared, right? Look at number 9. What does that start with? 4th, right? So if it starts with a 4th, if I just ignore the exponents right now, and if I did a times c, I would have 4 and negative 5. So how would that factor? Negative 4 and negative 1, right? So if x times x gives me x squared, what times what would give me x to the 4th? X squared, right? So if I put 0 equal to x squared minus 4, and x squared minus 1. So the first one, x squared minus 4, does anybody recognize that? It's a square, right? So I can do x plus 2 and x minus 2. And how about the x squared minus 1? Perfect. So if I set each of these equal to 0, my zeros are going to be plus and minus, oops. Plus and minus 2 and plus and minus 1. And how do I get the y-intercept? Just plug the 0 in. So I get 0, 0, and 4. Okay, so the last one I'm going to do is the absolute value because that one's different. First of all, let's do f of 0 because that's easy. So 0 minus 5 gives me a negative 5. But what does the absolute value do to that? Makes it positive. But what's on the outside? So I get negative 5 plus 3, which gives me negative 2. So I have 0, negative 2 for the y-intercept. So for the absolute value to find the zeros, I have to set it equal to 0, just like we did before. And to solve that, before you can do anything, you have to get the absolute value by itself. So if I subtract the 3, I have the negative here in front. So when I divide, now does anybody remember how many answers do you get with the absolute value? 2. So I need this one, which is positive, and this one, which is negative. So when I add 5, I get 8. When I add 5, I get 2.